It is just a huge, unbelievable honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Lily Teresa Garcia, DDS, MS, FACP. She is a prosthodontist, dean, and professor of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas School of Dental Medicine, UNLV. She graduated from the University of Texas at Austin and received her DDS from Baylor College in Dallas. On completion of the Certificate and Master of Science program in Prosthodontics at the University of Texas Health Science Center San Antonio, she was appointed faculty member in the Department of Prost. Following relocation to Tokyo, Japan, she was a faculty member at a private dental institute, the International Dental Academy in Tokyo, for 3 years. She was in private practice in Denver, Colorado, and taught part-time at the University of Colorado Health Science school teacher. After a transition into academic dentistry, she became chair of the Department of Restorative Dentistry at UCHSC. While continuing to maintain a practice limited to prosthodontics and implant treatment. Her focus on teaching in the predoctoral program led to updates in materials and teaching methodologies in both fixed and removable. She received recognition from her students and colleagues by receiving the Rocky Mountain Study Club Professor of the Year, voted on by area practitioners, and the University of Colorado Health Science Center President's Excellence in Teaching Award, selected by a graduating dental class recognized as a system-wide award. She was recruited to become the UTHSCSA, I believe that's University of Texas Health Science Center San Antonio, Department Chair of Prost in 2001. In 2010, she transitioned as Director, Division of Advanced Education and External Affairs, Department of Comprehensive Dentistry. She served as Professor and Associate Dean for the University of Iowa College of Dentistry. She received Educator of the Year Award from the American College of Prost in 2004, and ADA Presidential Citation in 2011, and the Hispanic Dental Association's Women's Leadership Award in 2012. She's lectured nationally, internationally. She's published numerous articles, abstracts, edited dental books. She served on the editorial boards of Quintessence. Dude, I'm not even halfway through your guy. I mean, you must be like, what, 289 years old? She's on the editorial boards for Quintessence International Journal, International Journal of Pros, currently serves as a reviewer for the Journal of the American Dental Association and the Journal of Prosthetic Dentistry. She's a member of the editorial council for the Journal of Prost Dentistry. She co-authored several textbooks, including Removable Partial Dentures, A Clinician's Guide, Physical Evaluation and Dental Practice in Progress, and served as editor for the 2014 Dental Clinics of North America, Prosthodontics, co-editor of 2019. I mean, my gosh, she's a board-certified Prost, diplomat of the American Board of Prost, fellow of the American College of Prost, fellow of the Academy of Prost, fellow of the American College of Dentists, fellow of the International College of Dentists. She's the past chair of the Board of American Dental Education Association, past president of the American College of Prost, past chair of the board of the... My God, what do you... I'm still not even halfway through it. I'm just going to go off on the record and say she is the world international dental stud muffin of all time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Lily. You were named after a flower, and the flower is even humbled by your resume. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. You made me laugh. It's a good way to be in the day. So thank you.
And the other thing I love about you is you're not shy. I mean, most times when I've talked to dental school deans, the only one who ever came on was Jack Dillenberg. And
I love Jack.
And the other deans will say, "Oh man, dentistry uncensored. If I just said one thing wrong or something and made one student or one, the best thing to do if you're in a dental association or a dental school, if you're anywhere like that, just lay low. No news is good news. And as long as no one ever says your name or hears your name or whatever, and they're just like, they laugh when I ask them. And you just rose to the occasion. You said, when and where, let's knock this out. So you're gutsy too. I mean, you're not afraid.
I think you just convinced me that. Thank you for this interview. It was a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
And now the interview is over.
Thank you.
So my God, I don't even really know where to start with you, but you're first a prosthodontist. That's what you did first, and I want to talk about prosthodontics first because My journey with prosthodontics is I was in Phoenix, Arizona in '87. No dental schools, no water fluoridation. I was trying to get my FAGD, and you had to take these hours in implantology. I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't want to do implants. I want to get my FAGD without the implant deal. And they go, no, Howard, that's not how it works. You gotta.
Yeah.
So I found a program at University of Pittsburgh with this guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before, Carl Mish, where I flew down there for 7 3-day weekends, and it was just love at first sight. But I'll never forget the first thing he said. He said that first he mastered removable prosthodontics, and the only reason he got into implants is because these implant guys were talking about how these cases were failing because the implant was wrong. And he's saying the implant, God, you didn't get the right bite, you didn't do anything right
Yeah.
in removable, and then you're blaming it on some little piece of titanium. and
Yeah.
and it made me realize the importance of cross training. And here Carl's gone, and we're back to square one, where you go to any major dental meeting and all the implant courses are all on four. That's the sexy subject, packs the room. And I'll raise my hand, I'll say, how many of you in here have never done one all on four? And all the hands go up. And I'll say, how many of you did a all on one this year? And all on none. And all the hands go up. And it's kind of like they're never going to learn implantology all on four if they don't first learn all on none.
You know, I think the fundamentals of aesthetics, of everything we do, if you can master removable pros and start from the full mouth rehab called the complete denture, you can pretty much master a lot of different things. And it's that work in 3 dimensions in space that's probably the most complex to teach. So you tell me if you graduated and knew what centric jaw relation records were. Centric relation. That's probably some of the most difficult topics to ever teach, much less learn. And so it's the fundamentals of everything. If you can get somebody's smile right and that balance with denture teeth, you've got a picture of what you can get in the end. Seeing the end product on a patient, seeing what they want to get. To me, it was strange. And I didn't necessarily love dentures. Now, remember, I graduated at a time where you had to do a full setup for your state board exam in Texas. So you had to do that full setup and, fully balanced, bilateral balance, which was tough. So after that, anything's possible.
And then that cross train, where Carl mastered removable, and then he went into implants and became about 1/3 the legend of your resume. My gosh, I see it often. Like you'll get to these TMJ occlusion guys, and they're fanatics, and they'll be saying this stuff, and immediately you just think, well, he hasn't even done one orthodontic case. You could not be that crazy if you did one orthodontic case. So it's kind of like cross training is everything. I mean, you learn all your occlusion and TMJ, and then go do an ortho case, and do removable, then do fixed. But when I look at the stats where they say 0.1% of Americans own 1/3 of the stock. So the top 0.1% third. Then the remaining 1%, owns the next third. And then from that to the next third goes to the 50% of America. But 50% of Americans don't own one share of stock. And I think that the market for all on none is 10 times bigger than Clear Choice, $25,000 an arch, all on four. And I always felt like removable was like the redheaded stepchild adopted of fixed frost.
Years ago, Dr. Chester Douglas out of the East Coast wrote the lot of the data on the declining need for removable pros because of the people were saving their teeth. And that's not actually what we're seeing, just basically what you're talking about, the population and the demographics. So there are people in need, and most of them it's out of pocket because, insurance only covers just barely enough to get a few cleanings here and there. So when you think about what the need is, there was a true evaluation. Should we be teaching this? And I was part with Dr. Nancy Arbery from Tufts, and Mike Alfano led that program out of NYU, and was thinking, how do you throw out garbage? And he did the analogy, you put the can by the street to pick up the garbage. But if you're trying to throw out the garbage can, the garbage people don't know what to do. So you label the garbage can garbage, and they go, okay, yeah, we got it. And then to how do you get rid of garbage? So that was a discussion about removable pros, when actuality, you actually need more of it, especially with the advent of three-dimensional digital scanning, all on one, all on four, however you want to call all this. It's the idea that fundamentals of removable are so applicable across all of dentistry. I mean, the best thing about going to dental school is you leave a very good beginning general dentist. And so you got to be a good general dentist before you're a specialist. You got to know a lot of different things to make it. So
And that's how I can always tell if a specialist's humble, because it takes a lot of time to figure it out. But you'll be at a restaurant or something, and the waitress will say, "So are you both dentists?" And my oral surgeon say, "Well, yeah, but it's only the orthodontist who says no, I'm not. I'm an orthodontist." And I'm like, "Dude, you went to dental school. I've seen your dental license. She asked you if you're a dentist. You have a dental degree. You have a license. You just lied to the waitress." And but the orthodontists are the only ones who can't say, "Yes, I was a dentist. I was a troubled child, but I corrected and I went to ortho school, and now I'm no longer a dentist." But I just fell in love with this one oral surgeon where first thing out of his mouth to the waitress was, "Yeah, he was a dentist too." And I thought, man, that takes humility for an oral surgeon to admit that he was once a low-life dentist. My gosh, you are just unbelievable in leadership. And so many kids come out of school and they're 25 and they think about opening up their own office, and they're like, "I'm shy, I'm introvert. The only reason I got in dental school is because I lived in a library for I mean, at Creighton, every night I heard the same thing. Ding. The library will be closing in 10 minutes. And then I get mad because they're closing the library, which I didn't think was fair. And we go back to the dorm, and it was 9 stores of Swanson Hall, and it was all beer and all. I remember going to the dean of the school, and it's Father McGloin. He was like an 80-year-old Jesuit priest. And I was whining to him that the library should be open 24 hours a day, and there's beer, and there's kegs, and there's women, and this whole Swanson Hall thing is not what you think it is. And an 80-year-old Jesuit priest gets up, walks around, puts his arm around me, and says, "Howard, maybe at midnight you should have a beer." And I thought, my God, only dental students are told to chill by 80-year-old Jesuit priests, you know? And so they come out, and the most exciting person they ever met in their life was a librarian. And then they're supposed to run a dental office, and you got these patients and staff, and they just sit there and say, "How can she's 25. And she thinks, I need to work at a DSO for 5 years because I don't know if I can lead a receptionist, a hygienist, assistant. I don't know if I can lead this." So I was wanting to ask you, my main question I want to ask you is, do you think you were born a natural born leader, or do you think leadership can be trained, that you can take a geometry geek and make him have a personality and be a leader that people want to follow?
you can learn lessons in leadership, but I actually grew up in a large family, so I was number 5 of 7. So it's by pure survival and tenacity to be able to get around and around the family alone. And my oldest brother to my youngest sister was a 20-year span, so there was quite an age span, and it was survival of the fittest with a home with just enough bedrooms and only 2 bathrooms. So you learn to survive. So part of that is tenacity. As far as leadership, I called it's almost serendipity. I fell, and my original analogies fell into potholes of opportunity. Also shows the streets that we lived in didn't quite have paved sidewalks everywhere. But it's the idea that if you have the chance, it was my father and mother. It was like, if you have the chance, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try things? And so I have to credit Larry Meskin. Dr. Meskin is one of my mentors at Colorado. And I don't know if you remember, he's the ADA past president, passed away not too long ago. But we were on a committee to look for a new chair, and I was reading some of the things. I said, wow, I'm not that far off from these guys, their credentials. And he looked at me and he said something like, well, you're so young. And then he got quiet, and that doesn't offend me, although nobody's saying that to me exactly right now. But at the time, I didn't take offense. And he says, would you step out of the room a moment? I said, sure, Dr. Meskin. And I came back in. He goes, we kicked you off the committee. We want you to apply. And after the meeting, he said, I realized by your age at this time, I was already a chair. and now I need to help mentor. So leadership comes from people seeing, if you're not looking for it, one or two people who are confident in of themselves trying to say, "Hey, I'd like to help you. And what can we do to help you?" So you don't know about all this leadership training available. And by chance, I was at Colorado and Jim Collins was at Boulder and
Oh
reading
my
Built to
God.
Last, Good
Oh
to
my
Great.
God.
And President Fulgenetti, who's a pediatrician, invited me to represent the dental school. So we got to do this leadership training. I'm sitting by this phenomenal pediatrician president of that health sciences at that time, and then going to a Jim Collins event on training and leadership. You just sit here going, what good fortune was that? How lucky am I? And I took advantage of it because I wasn't tenured. I maybe had 2.5 articles to my name, which were not of Nobel Prize laureate level, but yet I had people who saw something in me, and one of that was Dr. Meskin, who was pushing me, Dr. Bob Averback, who was the dean at that time, and he supported me. And these are confident individuals who wanted you to succeed. So I'm just grateful for the opportunities I've had. So when they ask you, you kind of say, yeah, why not? And then sometimes this idea of this training, it gives you an idea of maybe what is required. Then you have a choice. Then you have a choice. Do I want more? Is this what I want? Then you get times to think about it. But a lot of times people just think, I want to do this. And you think, well, learn about it more before you jump in because the deep end can be quite deep sometimes. So
When you look at your name and you see DDS MS, the minute you see an MS, you always know it's a specialist. But one of the specialties is dental public health. And when you mentioned Larry, Lawrence Meskin, DDS, PhD, MPH, I always see the MPH in my mind. That always means dental public health specialist. I mean, that's how it registers in my mind. Do you think the MPH is the master's degree for public health dentistry and kind of is the what denotes that you specialize, like your MS, you're a specialist in prosthodontics. But do you think the MPH is a specialist in dental public health?
some of them are public health, period. Now, their programs, actually, we're going to try and start a program here, a dental public health program, to be able to do that. Some of them are geared that way. Some require an additional master's. So that's where there's maybe some not as clear distinctions across the U.S. and across the U.S. and Canada on the CODA accredited schools. But if you have a public health degree, to have that focus back to dental public health, it's oral health. We're just trying to keep people well. And when you live in a state like Texas or Iowa or Nevada, there's a lot of places that may not have access to anything. So why wouldn't you try to develop programs to help people either help themselves or help them get access to where they need to go?
Where were you actually born and raised?
Alice, Texas, down by Corpus Christi. I don't know if
Oh my
not
gosh.
Dallas, it's the girl's name, Alice. So
Oh my God. 4 of my 6 grandchildren are in Beeville, Texas.
okay. Not a
And
lot of people know where Beeville is either.
now, do you know where Beeville is?
Yes, because the high school Friday Night Lights, that's all about high school football down there.
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. My gosh. That is what a small world. Alice, Texas. I had never even I never heard of that, but yeah, it's a weird world we live in because like you always hear about the rich people, the rich, the rich, rich. And if you read every article on a smartphone or a cell phone, you'll never once read that, well, there's 8 billion people on the earth, and if we reduce it to 3, one has a smartphone, one just has a cell phone with no internet connection, and one has neither.
wow.
And if you read 1,000 articles on smartphones, you're all worried about Tim Cook and the iPhone and is Warren Buffett going to invest and Samsung and Google. It's like, well, how come no one talks about the fact that 1 in 3 people on Earth have neither an internet connection, a smartphone, and it's kind of gross. I remember when I first got out of school, my first postgraduate education left a bad taste in my mouth because I went to one of these famous places, and the first day they lectured about how there's A patients, B patients, C patients, D
Mm.
patients, and F patients, and how you just need to focus on the A patients. You don't want any of the C, D, or F. And I'm like, well, your definition of CDNF, you just explained the whole Ferran family reunion. I mean, we're all from Parsons, Kansas. When we have a family reunion, I'm shocked that the CDC's not there doing genetic counseling or hair samples or saying what went wrong with this population. But there's just too much obsession with how will this affect the price of Apple, and Warren Buffett selling his shares, and maybe Tim Cook should have done this. So kept Warren. It's like, maybe you should all shut up and start figuring out how to get the 1 in 3 people with no internet connection or phone a damn iPhone or a smartphone. You know what I mean? And I love dentistry. I don't like the elitism in some circles of dentistry where it's all how to make the richest stuff for the richest people. I mean, Henry Ford was not the inventor of the car. I mean, he was the 85th car company, but he was the first one to mass produce a car for the working man, and also paid him a living wage of $5 a day. So, because Henry said, well, if your own worker can't afford your own damn product, something's seriously out of whack. And today that's the norm. It's not the and I know him and Walt Disney had bad things on the sides. Everybody's complex and multifaceted and all that kind of stuff. But is it safe to say that when you got out of dental school that you thought it was more of a man's profession then than it is today?
Oh, yes. I guess I never saw that differential. Let's put it this way. And at Baylor, we had a class of 140, and there were maybe about 18 women at the time. So
8 women or 18?
18, 1 8.
8 out of 140?
Right. So, and I think when you looked at underrepresented minorities, let's put it that way, there were no African Americans. I know I was one of the Hispanics. There may have been about 2 others, so, but I felt more welcome there than I ever had been. I loved my experience there. I was grateful to be there. It's just all these good stories. Now, did I realize it was mostly men? Well, kind of, that's all year round. Same thing with pros, but it's all changing now. And to me, it's just about respect. And we can talk about stories from dental school that it's body humor, and that's not going to go well on a podcast. So you sit there, you've learned survival. I've learned through life that you got to have a little bit of a sense of humor. And when you're 5 feet tall, you better know how to handle yourself. And so instead of punching people, you learn to just kind of have a little bit of self-deprecating humor, appreciation for other people, and just kind of enjoy things now and then, because those were tough times. I mean, and I had a great experience at Baylor. I mean, Dean Henry was there, and Richard Bradley from Nebraska was the new dean there. So I had a great experience. Even the ones who were the men faculty, be careful with them. Some of them I've had lifelong friendships with because they were just good people. So I guess I never was afraid because I was surrounded by my father. I learned to shoot before I learned to drive, in South
Well,
Texas.
you're a Texan.
And if I missed, well, then, we were going to have a big barbecue because it was on my dad's small little ranch. If we hit a cow, okay, there we go. We'll have some barbecue tonight. So I guess that there are a lot of men, but most of my early mentors were men. There were faculty.
I used to be really worried when I had grandchildren because I raised 4 boys, and then I started having grandchildren, and we just had one girl until just like 3 months ago when we got our son girl. And I used to always say to the boys, I said, do you think we're messing up Taylor? I mean, she goes bull riding, fishing, hunting, shooting. She hasn't done anything girl yet. And we're all just standing around like, I don't know. But do you think that can make her a tomboy, or do you think at birth she was already going to be a tomboy or a pretty girl or a sissy girl? But do you think the fact that all of her uncles are boys, everything's boy. I mean, she's in Beeville, Texas. I mean, she's horseback riding, she's bull riding, she's shooting, she's hunting. Do you think that that will make her
I think
Less
that makes her
girly?
stronger. I think, oh, she'll have her feminine side. I mean, and she'll have confidence. That's what I learned. And as I tell my husband, we have one daughter. Our son lives in Florida. I said, the only way she'll know a man is how you behave, and how a man will treat a woman is how you treat me. And so that's her only image. She has no judgment. And she's a strong young woman. She's got more heart than most. And I'm going, that's a result that she has a strong mama and a strong daddy. And so I don't see anything wrong with that. I love my brothers. My father's since passed away, and he was an incredible influence on my life. So you sit here going, no, she'll be stronger for it. Now, will men may be intimidated by her? Maybe, because she can bull ride and shoot and everything else. But she'll meet her match. She'll meet her
I
match.
thought something was wrong with her when she asked for a 410 shotgun before she asked for a pink Barbie doll house, whatever. I'm like, okay, I hope this goes good. Dentists, a lot of dentists, you think they're, you think they're confident, you think they're self-esteem, you think they should have self-esteem. I mean, they're a good dentist, they're a great person, great father, friend, brother, everything. And then they get a Yelp review, and I swear to God, you're like walking them off. You're at the Golden Gate Bridge trying to talk them down not to jump, and it's by some person you don't even know who it is, and they say something. And I come from the long line of there's 8 billion people. When I got to Phoenix, there was no water, there's no fluoride in the water, so I called our buddy Jack Dillenberg, and we set up this Arizona Citizens for Dental Health. And I was in 87, and I was so young and dumb. I thought if I showed you some research from the Centers for Disease Control, you'd say, "Oh, well, I stand corrected. I did not see this study. I did not read this study." And I had read all 5,000 water fluoridation studies, had them in a binder, alphabetic order, these tabs, because I was ready to debate anything. And that's when I realized that 1/4 of America couldn't give a crap about any research from the Centers for Disease Control, and they already had their belief system and their belief model. And it was a communist plot. It was invented by Stalin. Just all this crazy stuff. So I was well aware that 1 in 4 people were nuts. I actually thought it was higher just going to Ferran family reunions. I thought it was more like half, but it turns out it's only about 1/4. But my gosh, they get a Yelp review, and they lose their mind. And then I see strong people like you, where when you're a dental school dean, or all the positions you served in, American Dental Education, chair of the board, you were the president of the American College of Prost. You've been in situations where you didn't get favorable press. How did you handle that, just from internal strength, or because you knew it wasn't true, or how do you handle that monster when my homies can't handle a 1-star Google review by an anonymous person?
Well, I will tell you, one of my speeches I gave at the American Dental Education Association is I left out a segment of our partners in dental treatment. I think I left out dental assistants to acknowledge. I acknowledged dental hygienists, dental laboratory technicians. There was emerging therapy, and I missed dental assistants. And a person came up to me who's a leader in that organization and said, "You failed to recognize us." And I said, "All I can say is I'm sorry. It was not intentional." And if she had given me maybe 5 more minutes, I said, "The reason I'm in dentistry is because my hometown dentist hired me as a dental assistant to learn as a dental assistant. And there were times that as a dental assistant, you had to mop up the vomit that the kid threw up, or I was still squeezing amalgam where you squeeze out the mercury. I don't know if you're that old, but it just where you did the little squeeze cheesecloth or whatever it was, or you'd mess with the mercury and coat a dime or something." So all I could do was apologize. I can't do anything else because that person's already shut me down and hasn't given me an opportunity. So sometimes I feel like I'm like the cable company. I'm sorry, just start out right away. But I actually mean it, because my intention is never to harm somebody. It's actually trying to do the right thing. But you're going to misstep here and there. It just happens. It's not intentional, but there's a lot of hypersensitivity, and I want to be cautious and respectful. Last night I just had Dr. Leo Rouse, which I know you've heard his name, and Dr. Eugene Anderson, who's with the Association of Public Land Grant Universities, and Dr. Monique Phipps. She's one of our faculty here. They're all African American. We had a conversation, and he said the idea, and Leo Rouse worked with Schwarzkopf and, all Colin Powell. And he says, you don't let that define you. Still do the right thing. You only have one shot to do the right thing the right time, the first time. So if you misstep, all I can do is apologize. I mean, mea culpa, mea culpa.
Well, hey, we're not live, so if I ever ask a question and you want it subtracted, all you gotta do is tell my man Kyle here. But back to that deal, I was curious. I wasn't thinking about it before, but I just podcasted a dental student from Iowa, and that was all over the news where they were having I'm sure you're aware
It
of
was
that
horrible,
issue.
yes, because I just left there a year and a half ago. It's a great
Oh,
place.
that's right. I didn't put that together. My gosh. So what did you think of all that? Yeah, his name was Michael Braze, and I know we struck a nerve because my gosh, that thing had 637 YouTube views the first 24 hours. But what you used to be there, so what did you think of that whole thing?
Again, was that a misstep without being part of that decision process of how it was done? But I would tell you that there are so many people who care about all the students. And I can say this, but until students feel that, it's not real. If you walk into a place and you're down in Beeville, it's like, hey, you look like the out of town guy, don't you? So it's, how do you feel? Do you feel welcome? And it's that, I don't know what you call it, the gestalt. It's that genuine sense of, I do feel welcome here. So my question is, I have to be sincere in what I'm thinking, not to be exclusive, to be inclusive. And in this day and age, I think what I do is I treat everyone, regardless of political, religious, and this. Now, there have been times as a woman, I walk in and a patient looks at me, and I won't even say the gender of the patient, and says, "You're not a man." And I'm going, "No, I'm not." Well, are you Dr. Garcia? I go, "Yes, I am." "Why want a man?" I go, "No problem. I'll get you one of my colleagues. We'll be just fine." Because my point is, I can't own somebody else's anger or feelings or their perceptions, but I'll certainly still try to make sure they're taken care of. I'm not going to go kick them out. What happened at Iowa was sad because it's a lot of complex things. And in this day and age, there's just there's a very short leash on tolerance. And so, but again, what happens with that impact? It impacts the entire school and those students who maybe are fearful to talk up. So last night we had the conversation on our Black History Month, and it wasn't about political. It was about who you are as people and developing a respect and humanism that we all want to work together. We all want to help each other. Yeah.
One of my problems is I was born and raised Irish Catholic in Kansas, and we always had to go visit the family's graveyards and all that stuff. And I used to always think, one of the neat things about dentistry is anthropology, because the teeth are the most, they're 98% inorganic, and they never find a 1,000,000-year-old kidney or a liver or a pancreas, but they always find that damn tooth. And Bernard Butterworth turned in dental anatomy, turned everybody into anthropology, and I just absolutely loved it. But with my background, it's like the only humans are 200,000-year-old species. They say 108 billion have come and died for us to be here in the present, and their only job was, before they drop dead, to make a baby to replace us so that someone's standing when they fall dead. And it's like, for 200,000 years, they all did their job or we wouldn't be here. And my mom always took us to the cemeteries to pay respect. And now we're supposed to just yell at everyone that died, because everyone that lived their life, everybody did something wrong. And I mean, even Walt Disney, and everybody's wrong. And I'm like, dude, they did their job, and we're here today, and let's just hold hands, sing kumbaya, and work together, and make sure our replacements say good things about us. You know what I mean? But I just don't understand the going to the graveyards and yelling at everybody that they got us here.
Well, it's interesting you even talk about graveyards. I think of my small hometown. So we were south of the tracks because the white population was north of the tracks. The Mexican population was south of the tracks. So I never saw the other cemetery. I always went to the one where my grandparents and aunts and uncles, were. So I didn't know that was the Mexican cemetery. That's the only cemetery I went to. So it's like I didn't know there was a difference until one day I saw the other cemetery. I was like, wow, that's really well kept. It's lawn and everything else. I guess I didn't concern myself with that. To me, I had to work so hard to do what I'm doing. I had to study a lot. It didn't come naturally to me. Some people are just sharp and they can do well. I was always working hard. And believe me, even at University of Texas in Austin, my father managed to find the one Catholic dorm at University of Texas to keep me and my sisters there. So run by nuns that he didn't know were the ones who bought the kegs. So basically that whole thing is, I didn't see those differences. I did see my father treated in a different way. He wore French cuffs with cufflinks. He had monogram shirts. He was a pharmacist. But yet when we went to a store, they wouldn't help him till Mr. Lopez came because the Mexican salesman wasn't there to help my dad. I didn't know that. And so could I be bitter and angry? No, I have to be better. And I'm going to get my daughter and her son to be stronger because they're the ones who are going to propagate. You don't want to propagate bad behavior. You just want people to be better, hopefully better. So if I get into heaven, it's because I have a wonderful daughter. Let's put it that way. So.
Yeah, attitude will get you far. I mean, it's just, my God, it's so complex. So many of these things that you were a president of, a leader of, a founder. I mean, a lot of people listening might not even know, like the ADA Geis Foundation, ADEA Geis Foundation. Tell them about the.
So the Association of Dental Education has a Geis Foundation, and that was from Bill Geis, who started all the thing about dentistry being a science and actually met his great-grandson. So it's the idea in dental education to provide funding. Actually, I'm on the grants committee right now to provide funding for innovative ways of teaching. We teach adults. We're not teaching third graders. And so we want them to learn better and be stronger and become those critical thinkers. They learn massive amounts of information, and it's all at once. And they have to assemble that information to be able to talk to a patient and deliver the best possible care. So Geis Foundation supports those types of projects to have better teaching in dental education, in allied dental education for assisting and hygiene and laboratory technology. They try to support that. That's where that comes from. And actually, Pat Ferrillo is now the chair of that foundation. So they're kind of rethinking how they want to do things to be able to get more money, to give more money. So
we got one guy on Dental Town with that name, Kyle Geis from Norton, Michigan. And the guy you're talking about, William Geis, was 1872 to 1956. I wonder if he's related to Geis. So one thing I've noticed, and you'd probably know more than I would, is that wherever you go, any country you go, you say, how many of you had another dentist in the family? It's always at least 1 in 4. And then when you get to like India or Brazil, it could be 1 in 3. Historically, if your father was a goat farmer and you were living out in the middle of nowhere, you'd do goats. You'd be a goat farmer. Do you still see, like you're at UNLV, is being a dentist still kind of genetic? Is there still 1 in 4, 1 in 3 have a family history of dentistry?
Some do, but we do have some first generation dentists, so they're working hard because I'm a first generation dentist. My father was not.
He was a pharmacist?
Right. But before he died, he let me know his story. He had actually gotten into dental school, but he couldn't afford it. He'd been working full time to get himself through pharmacy school. So, and it was actually at Baylor where I think he was first accepted. And they said, "We'll find you a job." And he's like, "Yeah, I really want to get back." So you do have trends that they're families of dentists, and think about it, it's a really good profession. uh, you can do a good solid job. I don't know how Yelp affects income, but just doing the right thing, you'll do well. It comes. You don't have to sell it. You can do well if you do the right thing for patients. I truly believe that.
Now,
So
when you say Baylor, that's old school. It's no longer Baylor College of Dentistry.
I know it's a little painful because I'm a Texas ex from Austin. So, but I did graduate from Baylor College of Dentistry. But it's a Texas A&M school. It's a great school. They just have a new building, so it's still my alma mater. So,
Yeah. I want to ask another question. Can you put up that chart? Professor Galloway is always throwing this chart around. This isn't for dental schools, but this is for in general. So one of the biggest complaints you hear about just education in America seems that a lot of it's coming from Professor Galloway, NYU, but he's saying from 98 to 2018, and I've had geometry, so I can figure out that that's 20 years, that over a 20-year period, that the inflation of the United States is 54%, but the inflation of the universities is 150%. So it's 100% higher than general inflation. Why do you think education over the last 20 years went up 100% more than the cost of goods and services for milk, bread, butter, cheese, cars, eggs, and houses?
well, you credit me with far more depth of knowledge than I could ever hope for. But I will tell you, as somebody who had to work jobs, get loans and grants to go to school, as far as dental school, my job is to make sure I provide value, whatever the cost may be. So I know the American College of Prosthodontics and David Pfeiffer, who's an ex-Navy guy who was in private practice in California. He and Kent Nash did these articles on rate of return, return on investment, your ROI. And they do show, like in specialization, there's easily a return of investment over your lifetime that more than compensates for the cost. It doesn't take away the burden when they graduate thinking, gosh, when I graduated, I didn't talk about I need to get a job, but they have debt. I will quote my previous dean, David Johnson, where he says, first, while you're in dental school, if you see that money's going to be a problem, why not look at federal services, which are a solid experience? Why not go into dental service organizations to do a lot of learning? And then he also said, and don't live like a dentist when you're a student. You know, um, remember those days where you could count how much was in your checkbook and write a check for $3.17 at a grocery store for something. So it's managing and giving them the tools by which they can manage the debt. Now, when I think I want to hire good people, I do want to give them a living wage. I do want them to be strong faculty. I do want them to do well. But as a faculty member, you will never earn what you can earn in private practice. It's just not so. And our faculty work 5 days a week and longer hours and weekends for volunteering. So how can I explain the rise in costs? That you're looking at somebody who is trying to make sure I provide value for our costs here. So if I know we have good faculty and they're doing a good job, students, I want to be very cautious if I ever think of raising tuition, but students will be part of that decision.
So students would be part of the raising cost deal.
Yes, in our system in Nevada, we meet with them and discuss it. And so when I first got here, there was a push, should we raise tuition? And so we brought in some students to get their opinion. And it's just like, oh, they have young families, they have burdens, they have other things. So at that time, I actually didn't feel like I could make the value statement to increase tuition. I'll tell you right now, we're about to hire some really phenomenal people to add to our faculty. And maybe in the next session, I'll bring them in, because if they feel like it's better and it's valued, they will probably support us as well. Most all of them would say, don't ever raise our tuition, but sooner or later our costs go up. And under the pandemic, a lot of us, I mean, my faculty are taking furloughs. So it's a cut right now for them on their pay and staff too.
Well, it's tough because they can't do anything right or wrong. I saw a dean in several times on Dental Town where they'll invest in scanning technology. They'll make some big investment, and the whole threat on Dental Town is like, you're right. You should be cutting costs and lowering tuition and all that stuff. So I just think it's cool that people like you have the self-esteem that you can just take the criticism. Again, most of my homies I know, they lose their mind over a Yelp review. I mean, sometimes I'm just like, dude, you're like a stud. Why do you even care? And it makes you realize that people are a little more thin-skinned than you think sometimes. So in the year 1900, there were no specialties. By 2000, MDs had 58, dentistry had 8. It's only 2020, and we've added 4 more. Obviously, we're specializing. I mean, we have 40, just the United States has 40,000 monthly healthcare publications. My friends that do eyes, they bite up by, well, he just does glasses. He does ophthalmology. She just does glaucoma. He just does retinas. I mean, you can't even get one guy to do an eyeball. You know what I mean? And then they come out of school, and I see your graduates come out. A lot of them come to Phoenix, Arizona, and they're like, man, I want to do molar endo, and I want to learn how to place implants and bone graft, and I want to do clear liners and silver diamine fluoride. And you're like, slow down, Spanky. I mean, just one thing will take you 10 years, 10,000 hours. I mean, if you think you're going to learn 12 specialties, put the beer down and we need to talk. So I love their passion. I love their enthusiasm. They want to come out and conquer the world. But it seems to me that the most successful people are the people who first get good at one damn thing. They get something good enough to hang their hat on. So how do you channel that enthusiasm to learn it all into saying, well, like taking your grandkids to the store. Okay, you're only going to take one thing. We're only going to buy this one thing. So everybody gets one thing. And then they always come back with 3 things. Like, no, you got to pick one thing. How do you get these kids to focus on one thing to get good at, to hang their hat on before they go out and try to learn how to do everything in the world?
Well, I'm trying to create what I've experienced. So I learned to do periosurgery. I work with the great oral surgeons in dental school to learn exodontia. I learned all those things. And sooner or later, I was like, well, I don't enjoy that as much as that. But until you do it, you don't even know if you're good at it. And granted, you don't do the numbers that you would in private practice, but there's some sort of affinity that you're doing. That's the best thing about general dentistry. You have the education to do it all, but you want to do it well. So our thinking is, can we give them enough skills to know themselves? I'm really good at this, or I'm really good at that. So can they decide that? And some have decided, no, I'm going to specialize. I do think that many of our students who opt for like federal services are smart, because the federal services, that's the greatest experience to do a lot of general dentistry, build speed and experience. And then they may say, all I did today was a lot of exams and just simple restorations. Maybe I do want more. And so they can explore it from there. Here, we're trying to ensure they get enough experience to say, I really enjoy this, or I really enjoy that. So hopefully we channel their energy there. Most of them, they're actually hungry. They want to do a lot. So my job is to make sure we can keep getting patients to come to us. Because as you know, patients come into dental schools, and it's not like being in the suburbs of Phoenix out by the Phoenician, and to have, this type of a practice. They come here and they're actually gifts for us for learning. So I always tell, use your skills to see how you can help a patient. And most of that problem solving is what's a challenge, which is why I went into pros, because it was more problem solving. and you use a combination of things. But general dentistry, that's where you can start honing in, because some of them, when they first get out, if they go and join as associate, some of them will say, well, gee, the primary is the one who likes to do all the fix, but I do the endo. I go, nothing's wrong with that. If you can get a patient out of pain, guess what? They don't know if you were first in your class or last in your class. You took care of them, you got them out of pain, and they want to come back to you because you were nice. So try to help them see that what they're doing right now is the value. They don't have to go for broke on everything to just hone their skills. Last night's conversation, one of the students brought up something about the imposter syndrome. And actually, our young faculty member said, no, you have to have the humble nature to work with the patient, say, allow me to make sure I do this right, or that didn't come out as well as I can, and I can do it better. Maybe being honest with the patient and just an open dialogue can help them say, I can be better at certain things, and maybe I should take more CE on this, because dental school can't teach you everything. We try to teach you the most, and then learn how to seek the right type of CE to improve your skills. And that's where they start finding their pathway a little bit.
All countries are not created equal, and you were lived in Japan for 3 years. I went over there and did 5 podcasts in Japan, and it's an incredible civilization. I like to remind all our viewers that America makes the Chrysler, and they make Lexus and Toyota. I mean, Japan would have never signed off on a Chrysler or a Pontiac, I assure you. But what did you learn? All these countries, they do everything a little different. What were your takeaways on dental education in Japan, where you thought maybe America could make their Ford, Chevy, Chrysler a little bit more, Toyota, Honda? What was the takeaway over there? I mean, it's a 9,000-year-old civilization. They do a lot of things differently. Did you learn anything profound in the Japanese way?
Well, I will tell you, I think our students at the time that I was there, students in the US have earlier interactions with patients, and they get to do more themselves. At the time I was in Japan, I was teaching basically in an AEGD program. And so these students were young doctors, were learning to do more on their own. So they were more strictly supervised. And again, that's a number of years ago, over 30 plus years ago when we were there. So it's probably evolved since then. So that's where this institute came up. And the guy who ran the institute was Samiya Hobo. So he wrote the Schillingberg Hobo Witset Crown and Bridge book. And so I worked with Hobo, who's a UCLA faculty, and he was trying to get them to do a little bit more fix, learn a little bit more to give them the confidence to go out into practice. At that time, they were encouraged to do kind of an extra year after graduation. So that was where we came in. And I found them incredibly respectful. It's probably the last time anybody bows when I walk in a room as a faculty. So to walk in and they all bow to you is like, that was the last time. But that was different because they had more restrictive practice skills in dental school than we do in the US. So it may have changed over that period of time. It's been a long time since I've been back.
I just want to say I'm your biggest fan.
Thank you.
I love you to
It's
death.
been
I
fun
adore
meeting
you.
you.
You really, your resume is impeccable. It's people like you that make dentistry, that take it to the next level, and I love
Thank you.
I just love everything you're doing out there. And
Well, I hope I survive as one of the few deans who've come on your show. So if I do, I'll be happy to contribute any way I can.
Well, I hope you don't survive, because we got 2 dental schools in Arizona. You can move down here with me and Jack, and we'll start a 3-person drinking club. But
I can't thank you enough. I'm sorry it's over. I just
no. Thanks for all you do, and I can't wait to see you again someday.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.